we're dealing with 84 degrees Fahrenheit, 212,933 miles on the odometer. Let's see if we can get a date. It is May 5th of 2024. Yeah, so we're getting kind of cozied in. Doing the whole thing. I don't want to get into the whole specifics, but you find that one thing to unpack, and you do that daily, and then eventually you get moved in or find the things that you want to keep or the things you want to throw away or donate or whatever. But we're in a different area of Fort Worth. Just a kind of a sneak peek. It's not really a sneak peek, more like a tip. I'm seeing right now. Hang on. I'm on the road called Robert's Cutoff. Yeah, it's right here. They've got a kids band right there in that house. I forgot the name of their band, but they're on Facebook. Anyway, well, they're on YouTube. I only found them on YouTube, but supposedly the guy that lives there said they were on Facebook, but I couldn't find them on Facebook. Going to Cole's, today's delivery. Watched The Batman on Tubi, Matt Reeves. It's got Robert Pattinson in it and Paul Dano. It's actually pretty good. I tried to watch it about a year or two ago and fell asleep, and then wasn't able to watch it. Did a Redbox thing, but I was able to watch it this time around. Still fell asleep, but woke up in certain segments and liked it, and then fell back to sleep, and then woke up again and liked it. And man, Paul Dano really, I know the way this way. Paul Dano really took it, those eyes, you know. I did not plan this. He went really overboard. It was no Joker, not Heath Ledger, but it was, you know, it worked. I don't think there were any drugs involved in his Riddler, but I could be wrong. I don't know. Maybe serotonin uptakes. I don't know. But actually, the scenes I liked him in were when he was very calm and collective. I thought that was brilliant. I always like bringing very human quality to the Batman series, which Matt Reeves did. Now, it is a little more fanciful than Christopher Nolan in the fact that I thought Christopher Nolan's stuff was a little more real and more meditative. So I'm probably going to put Christopher Nolan, you know, on a higher chart. You know, the Dark Knight hasn't been beat yet. That was the sequel to Batman Begins. Christopher Nolan's Dark Knight is still my favorite. But when I first saw the Batman, I was thinking, hey, you know, this performance by Robert Pattinson is definitely better than the performance by Christopher Bell, or Christopher Bell, yeah. I thought so. I thought Robert Pattinson's performance was better. But I don't think that Paul Dano beat Heath Ledger's Joker. There's kind of a hint. I gotta watch back. Is the Joker in the very, very end? Now, there's also a Penguin character. I thought that guy did pretty good playing the Penguin, but I like Danny DeVito's Penguin better. And that goes back to Tim Burton. The Tim Burton series is kind of on a comeback, so people are rewatching it. And you got people like Michael Keaton, who's playing Batman, which I thought was pretty good. You know, his is pretty good. So far, I think Robert Pattinson may have them all beat. Okay, so we got through this whole Batman thing. I'm also a big fan of Adam West, too. I think Adam West did a really good Batman. I think Adam West kind of brought in the mysterious bat-like quality, and also the way that he talked, you know, and doing this Adam West kind of stuff, which I think Michael Keaton did a little bit of that. But no one else, it kind of dropped after Michael Keaton. Val Kilmer took over after Michael Keaton. I don't remember the director on that one, but that Jim Carrey was thrown in there eventually as the Riddler, which is a very different Riddler than Paul Dano. Oh, look at this guy. But what they brought into The Batman was the social media phenomenon. A little bit of it, you know, the live streaming kind of thing. It was funny. There was a scene where the Riddler is saying thank you to all his fans, kind of thing. It was creepy though. The Batman is creepy. It's almost comes off as like, have you ever seen David Fincher's David Fincher's Seven? It has that kind of serial killer kind of creepiness about it, which I thought was kind of interesting because it brought it like a reality level. But I don't think Matt Reeves has a level of talent that Christopher Nolan has, or Tim Burton. But he certainly is trying, and it's a watchable one. He brought in some Nirvana, so the sequence in it where it's underneath the bridge song, which is Something in the Way. Underneath the bridge, droppings from the ceiling, all that stuff. That was brought into it. So it's a moment where he's driving. So it's a kind of, it's hip. It's very hip. So is Nolan's, but Nolan stuck with more of the Christopher Nolan stuck more with the classical music. So I just woke up from the very ending of the Batman. The Batman always puts me to sleep. I don't know. The Christopher Nolan, The Dark Knight didn't. I couldn't stop watching that one. That one was, but that affected society. You know, that's how powerful Christopher Nolan's direction was on the Batman. It actually made an influence in a negative way too on society. And he was that far into it, you know. It was that meditative. Not that Christopher Nolan was trying to. It just had such a powerful effect with the younger crowd that this guy named Holmes went into an Astoria movie house and opened fire as the Joker. And it changed the way 911 responds, can respond to mass shootings sequences, or mass shootings moments, because they got a lot of people, you know, to the hospital using police cars and stuff. There was a joint effect in that, and they saved a lot of lives, you know, because of this horrible society that we live in, kind of, you know. Garfield movies coming out. Anyway, the Batman has kind of like a club scenes kind of thing feel to it. It's very hip. It's very cool. It doesn't have the morality level. It's not talking about morality as much as Christopher Nolan was, who redeveloped the whole Batman story for his series. Christopher Nolan was delving into character and morality, not the hipness and coolness like the Batman, even though the Batman is cool. He was asking questions about good and evil and bringing forth the mask. And of course, Christopher Nolan stuff is better. Anyway, I just wanted to say that. But I do appreciate Matt Reeves and his attempt, and I do appreciate the movie. I do think it's entertaining. I think it's a successful movie. I think it's very successful. I think the performances are very entertaining. I think the movie is very, very entertaining and very nice to look at. Very stunning. Beautiful to look at movie. DC has something to do with it. It's a WB. Check it out. It's not too bad, but it's no Christopher Nolan. Note on the Batman review, it's actually Christian Bale. Sorry about that. I was comparing Christian Bale with Robert Pattinson. Sorry about that. Christian Bale. Well, so I went in and made a payment, but what's really cool, if you ask them, they can, you can like pretend like you buy something, or they can void out something, or you can buy something. It always asks you if you use your card, if the address is correct. If you're updating your address, you just hit no, and then the person can update it for you. You can do it on the app as well. Not that that's any big news. She said that was an attempt, so she's going to see if it works. I've been getting emails for about a year and a half from them saying that they didn't like the address that I gave them. So I haven't received any of these in the mail in like a year and a half or so. But you don't really have to have them because you can use the app. All right, to delivery. favorites. You're probably wondering why I haven't really mentioned like Jeffrey Wright, who played Commissioner Gordon, and of course the very young, thin, and athletically superior, just very agile lady that played Catwoman, and I'll have to look up the actress's name later. She did very good. Physically, I thought she was one of the best Catwomen, and I thought Jeffrey Wright put a lot of emotional dedication to a role that's a lot of times left over or just looked over. Of course, Gary Oldman's Christopher Nolan, you know, that Commissioner Gordon is always a very important role, and a lot of people were very surprised that Gary Oldman took the role Christopher Nolan offered him. But this Christopher Nolan, this Matt Reeves version of the Commissioner was different, and I thought it was a unique aspect to, you know, a unique angle, kind of a human kind of thing. Even though, you know, Oldman's performance was very still, just like his Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy. But Jeffrey Wright was pretty emotional Commissioner. And fit the role, even though I know recently Jeffrey Wright was offered an Oscar. Catwomen. Okay, so Michelle Pfeiffer is probably going to be one of my favorites, because, you know, we all went to go see the Tim Burton one just to watch, you know, the sequel. That's the one with Diane Salinger, who plays the lost mother of the Penguin. Great performance by Diane Salinger and Pee Wee Herman, who is Paul Rubens. They did a very good job in that opening sequence in the sequel to Batman, The Return, or whatever it was called. Burton. Tim Burton is the one that got the first sequel to the Batman series in the movie house. But it's interesting to see the Penguin come back, you know, with the Batman, which is Matt Reeves. I thought he was good. He was no Danny DeVito, but there didn't seem to be any kind of Penguin quality, just the scar and the ugliness. But there was a moment where his legs were tied, and he walked kind of like the Penguin, even though they were doing, you know, very kind of realistic performances. And they were playing like characters, you know, that didn't have the quality of the animalistic quality. Now, the woman did, the lady in the Matt Reeves, the Batman, she did have cat-like qualities. There's a great moment in the movie, probably one of the moments that stuck out, is when she comes down the rope, very like Adam West style Batman, you know? I don't remember. Oh yeah, Julie Newmar or whatever her name is. God, she was so beautiful as Catwoman. This was when Adam West and stuff was dealing with the Catwoman. One of the most beautiful one was the Julie Newmar, which I used that cover one time in I did a remake of a Velvet Underground song called Sweet Nothing, and I used her. I'm pretty sure I used that photo of her for some reason. The Julie Newmar. If I'm getting her name wrong, I'll look it up later. But Catwoman. I'm just going through all of Catwoman's. But Michelle Pfeiffer is always, you know, on the cinema, on the silver screen, she's always very, very seductive and everything. But the Julie Newmar one, the television one, by far was probably one of the prettiest ones. But I did like her agile aspect. She was very tiny, very, very frail, could jump around and do all this stuff. It was great to watch. It was a lot of fun. And also she kind of brought like this ethnic quality to Catwoman, which I thought was cool. You know, this like an ethnic kind of, you know, she looked European or maybe a little bit Spanish with a hint of Italian or something. I thought that was kind of cool, because most of all the Catwomen have been white chicks, you know. But probably I think the most seductive is probably the Julie Newmar television series with Adam West when it comes to Catwoman. Yeah, I looked it up. It was Julie Newmar. There's probably a long vlog there on Julie Newmar. Totally was in love with her. She's just, I think the reason why, my mom originally, when I was younger, my mom did a stint where she modeled for a while in Dallas and stuff. She even did like a calendar, kind of a pinup girl kind of thing, but it was like a local kind of calendar for some kind of police department. But it was a photo of my mom holding like an M16 in camouflage. But my mom kind of looked a little bit like Julie Newmar, who played Cat Woman in the A.D.W.C thing. That's probably why I favor that one. Anyway, I just wanted to say that. I don't know if Julie Newmar is around anymore, but not putting down Michelle Pfeiffer. I thought her emotional commitment to the Tim Burton series and to playing Catwoman and was very seductive, and it worked very well. It's always exciting to see a new Catwoman, you know. That's all I have to say. Another couple mentions too, and I always get these wrong, but I always say, and I could be wrong, but there was a character in one of the Tim Burton, not Tim Burton, but it was like around the time when Tim Burton was doing Batman. There was some other directors that came in, and they brought in Jim Carrey and Arnold Schwarzenegger playing Mr. Freeze, who I actually met the original Mr. Freeze, which was Eli Wallach. I shook his hand, by the way. That was a television Mr. Freeze. I met Eli Wallach from The Good, Bad, and the Ugly. I got to meet him and talk to him and everything. He's a really kind of very quiet guy, very calm and collective. But anyway, going back to Batman, and we're talking about Michelle Pfeiffer, and we're also talking about Catwoman, and Julie Newmar, and then of course the new Catwoman. I can't think of her name with the Batman, but there was a thought there, and I lost it in irrationality and thinking about cats. I like the fact that if you're gonna get Catwoman, get her to be very cat-like. There was a scene where she was drinking milk. I like that in the Batman. Yeah, she's drinking a glass of milk with these cats all around, like in this abandoned apartment or something. Also, another thing I like about Tim Burton was the sudden changes in things. He had that a lot. Like, there was a very big character arc with Michelle Pfeiffer's character of Catwoman. She played this mousy, like, work person. You know, she's like a receptionist or something weird. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, you know, she falls, and these cats resurrect her. She falls off this, like, balcony, and these cats bring her back to life for whatever reason. She completely changes and then goes and destroys her apartment and makes it kind of like a cat den. I like that. You can see the difference between the characters. You know, the characters going from this to that. You didn't get that a whole lot in the Christopher Nolan series, or really any of the series, but with Tim Burton. Tim Burton showed the character arc and like how they went from there to there, you know, from point A to point Z. The other ones, they're already in the midst of being a villain or being a character or being a bad character, you know what I mean? They're already, you know, you don't see the growth or the art, you know, but you see that in the Michelle Pfeiffer one. She goes from this mousy character, and then she goes into this like very kind of sinister Catwoman. And I like this, you know, that's the fun part of Batman. One thing I want to say about the Batman with Robert Pattinson is he's mostly in the costume. He's mostly just Batman only. Some people, I don't know how they feel. A lot of people reward him for that. And then there's that whole aspect of really seeing who Batman was, which Christopher Nolan explored by rewriting the whole thing, by just coming up with a whole new series, Batman Begins. It's interesting because Matt Reeves kind of did the opposite. He said, we already know who Batman is. Let's stick with Batman. And same with all the other characters. And if you don't know anything about me, I favor cats. I don't know if they'll have Catman. But I like cats probably more than dogs. They're just, not that I have anything wrong. Like, I'm not against dogs. Just, cats just don't care. You know, they're crazy. They're funny. They do. To me, they're funny because of their emotions. Cats have, like, I always like to pet our cat Edmund. We have a cat named Edmund, Tuxedo, Scratchy Cassavetes. I always like to pet him on the stomach, and then he'll just claw. You know, he's very territorial and kind of mean. He's a mean cat. Identity. Trading Park is having a big Mayfest going on right now. Mayfest parking is $20 right now. Yeah, but I rub my cat's belly. He just purrs, and then he just attacks my hand, claws into it. I had one cat named Mojo who would only purr. This was back in the day. Never scratched me once. Never once. He died. He was killed by either a raccoon or a squirrel in Maine. It didn't kill him immediately, but the infection grew, and over time, we don't know exactly what type of varmint killed him. But he was the friendliest cat I ever had. Never clawed me once. You could turn him upside down and he would continue purring. He had a purring disorder. He would purr no matter what. A big old fat cat. Loved to eat. He would never turn down a meal. You know, he'd eat all the wet food. You could bring him in a pound of wet food. He'd eat till he threw up. It was sad to see. He became very obese. My mom tried to save him when I gave him away back to my mom up in Maine. I got the cat down here, but he got diabetes. Yeah, cats can get it. And it was like the well. He was a pretty big cat. He wasn't. I've seen fatter cats. One of his nicknames was the well. Yeah, Cassavetes doing Grease. Or they're doing something. I don't know. Maybe Mary Poppins Jr. But yeah, that poor cat. I just fed him way too much. And he just got, you know, I think he can get like 25 pounds. We barely pick them up, you know, and they're just laying on the carpet, just purring. But Mojo, you would grab him and turn him upside down where his tail was sticking up, and he would just continue purring like, this is a fun game that we're playing. That poor kitty. Gonna be a lot of classic cars going around town. All right, guys. Julie Newmar's still alive. She was born in 1933, so she's still gonna be at Comic-Cons and stuff like that. Julie Newmar's still around. 51410 3.9.